All right. Well,
Do
welcome.
I test?
No, you're good.
Oh, okay.
We're
Yay.
live.
Live.
How are you?
Amazing.
All right. So, Lauren, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing your crew here. We'll go around the room a little bit. When I first started the show, the whole concept was talking to anybody and everybody in the scene. And it includes individuals like yourself. You're involved with a lot. But you also have this great organization, Prosper XO. So you brought some people here. So I'll let y'all introduce yourselves. So we'll start right here with you, Terrany.
Yeah, hey, this is Terrany Johnson, also known as T Double. I'm one of the advisors, kind of helping out with Prosper and the evolution and the disbursement of great ideas and movements for the future musically.
Hey, I'm Gabriel Phoenix, and I'm the Chief Product Officer at Prosper XO. And I'm here to help interpret the needs of the music community into a piece of software and services that can really benefit from uh, that can really benefit the community at large.
All right. And Lauren.
You want to go next?
I'm Sue Koch. I'm also supporting Lauren as an advisor with Prosper XO. Got a history in subscription digital music and software as a service, so it's been a lot of fun to contribute to Lauren's goals and passions to bring Prosper XO to the world.
And hello, I am Lauren Bruno, CEO and one of the founders of Prosper XO, and also a musician and a lover of community and a mother too.
And a mother.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
How old's your kid?
She is about to be 7 at the end of this month, actually,
wow.
which is wild. Well, no, wait, it's September. At the end of October.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
October.
All right. Cool. I have a birthday at the end of October. We won't ask what your daughter's birthday is online or on air, but that's cool. All right. So welcome, guys. Just wanted to sit down, have a conversation about Prosper and what your mission is. Kind of learn more about how folks can be involved and just kind of go from there. So, but I like to get a little bit of a background of who we're talking to. So Lauren, you're a mother, you're an artist, you're a poet. And so tell me about yourself.
Yeah. I started in music very, very young. Actually, my dad was a left-handed bass player.
Okay.
My grandfather also was a left-handed bass player. He actually played in the band for that old show Bewitched. He played on the live band on set, and he was like a traveling jazz musician with a huge jazz band.
Oh, that's cool.
My dad actually was born on a tour bus, actually, which is so
What a
wild.
G.
Yeah, in 1950. But yeah, I have a long lineage of music behind me, and so I naturally gravitated to being in the choir and singing.
Okay.
When I was in 2nd grade, I had my first solo in the choir in front of 500 people. And I remember that moment so clearly. Number one, it's on VHS, so
Absolutely.
I can watch it. But I remember that moment because that was the first time I experienced letting out energy and receiving it in that way. And even though at that age I didn't know what that was, I just was like, I want to do this the rest of my life.
Something bit you.
So exactly. It was so powerful. And when I watch it back, like I've watched it with my daughter Ryland, and even seeing myself like experiencing that moment, it's really powerful. And that's the power of music, right? That moment of connection. I think that's a lot of the reason most of us do this, right? For me, I also loved like performing and acting, so I got into musical theater.
Okay.
After that, which wild story. There was a company I worked for called Dickens & Co. in Scottsdale, Arizona. And this company literally was hired by millionaires in their huge, massive houses to perform full theater productions. I don't know if I ever told you guys any.
How old were you when this was happening?
I was between the ages of 8 and like 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of
Like,
kids coming to these millionaires' houses.
well, I mean, it was a full production company. This couple had moved from London. They started this company called Dickens and Co.
Wow.
And they had a smart business, right? So literally, was little young Cosette, Les Miserables.
So you were a child actor?
I was a child actor. I've never said it in that way, but yes, I was a child actor, and I loved it. This one house, the floor was a koi pond. You walk in, and the whole entire floor was a koi pond.
Scottsdale's wild.
Scottsdale is wild. I had a lot of great experiences. Learned a lot there. I went to an art school there as well, which was great. But at 11, I found myself in kind of some intense situations. My dad passed away from lung cancer. And then I was, months after that diagnosed with a stomach disease called ulcerative colitis, which anybody listening, ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, it's an irritable bowel disease. And because of that, I was thrown in 3 worlds. I was thrown in the nonprofit world. I was thrown in the pharmaceutical world. And I was thrown in the political world in kind of an interesting way. So the nonprofit world, I was asked to perform at big like nonprofit conventions. I loved connecting with like kids and like newly diagnosed kids for myself because, just seeing other kids that were going through what I was going through was impactful, but also just like being able to share my voice and have kids not feel alone. That was just such a cool experience. But I learned a lot about the nonprofit world, like massive nonprofits. And, even started digging in, learning about these CEOs making so much money, right? And you do these walks for these big, massive organizations and you see these sick people. And then you're like, wait a second. Like, who's making what? Like, where is this money going? And even at that age, I remember being inquisitive about like that. And then with the pharmaceuticals, I was on this one drug that was starting to cause lymphoma. And when I would perform at these conventions, I would like go around talking to these pharmaceutical companies, like asking them questions and also digging deeper. And, it was just crazy to me because I was speaking as a kid affected by these diseases, but I quickly realized, wow, like I may be like helping promote these drugs, So it was an interesting perspective. But I was through both of these experiences, I found out about a camp called the Painted Turtle, which was built by Paul Newman and his wife in California. This camp basically brings kids affected by the same diseases for a week of camp, which is so cool. And then they bring celebrities that are also affected by those illnesses. So the week that I went for UC and Crohn's, the lead guitarist of of Pearl Jam came, named Mike McCready. And so I would perform in the cabins every evening. He would come and perform. That's how I met him. And it was super inspiring. At that time, I was 15. I was living in Portland at that time, working for a youth news station. So after meeting him, he and Pearl Jam were coming to Portland to do a benefit concert. And so after meeting him, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to his team and to him and to see if I can interview him on this youth news channel in Portland. And they got back and they were like, yeah, sure. So I have my CD ready with this song I wrote about Crohn's and colitis and not being alone. And I do this interview with him. I hand him my CD and I'm like, Mike, I think it would be really powerful if we performed this together and went to hospitals and spoke to newly diagnosed kids. Like basically just said that. And he was like, cool, I'll listen to it. A week later, I got a call from his team and they were like, we want to make the theme of this benefit your song. We'd love for you to perform it with Mike. And I was like, cool, okay, awesome.
How old were you at this point?
15 and a half.
Wow.
And so I did that.
It's gutsy.
Huh?
It's gutsy.
I mean, to me, it was just like number one, performing was so incredible for
Mhm.
me. But again, it always was like, how can I connect with people to make them not feel alone?
Yeah.
Not make them, but help them feel like they're not alone.
Yeah.
And so that was another opportunity to do that. And so we performed, and then I was approached by a pharmaceutical company that was sponsoring the event called UCB.
Okay.
And they were like, we would love for you to record this song with Mike, and we'd love to do a music video, and we would love to push this song, essentially. If I
Wow.
could remember correctly. It was a long time ago. I don't remember what they said exactly. So that happened.
Mhm.
I was 16. I went to the secret studio where Nirvana recorded. I used Kurt Cobain's mic, which was this insane. I'm
What?
16 years old. You know, the pharmaceutical company takes me shopping, got me like new outfits. We made this beautiful music video, which I can send you the link of.
Please.
It's beautiful.
Please.
It's really, really beautiful. But I tell this story because a few things happen in this moment. At the end of this experience, I was handed my first entertainment contract. And basically, the contract was asking for ownership of the masters
Mm,
by the pharmaceutical company, right?
I see.
Yeah. And so, you know, I learned, well, first of all, I learned the power of choice and the power of ownership and the power of a contract, right? At that age, which was a really big deal for me and really influenced the rest of my life as an artist. I also learned about the power of choice, right? I ended up saying no to them,
Mm.
which I felt really good about, right?
Did you make that decision on your own, or did you?
No, we met with a lawyer
Okay.
and talked with a lawyer.
Well, you
And
did.
talked, I mean, I
I
didn't
mean,
know what it meant, right? I mean, imagine
yeah.
at that age being handed
Yeah, of course.
a
I mean,
contract and you're
God.
like, well, now.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
there's fully grown people who would know what to do with that right now. So
yeah.
it's just,
And by a pharmaceutical company too, on
yeah,
top of that. This
yeah.
isn't just like a normal.
There's probably a couple numbers after the comma too that
Uh,
was,
yeah.
and
It's
yeah.
it was a big deal contract, and so we did talk with a lawyer, and I ultimately ended up saying no. But it also showed me, wow, I have a choice as an artist, right?
Yep.
And the last piece, which was ultimately what a piece of what led to Prosper, was I was like, oh my gosh, like brands can sponsor artists.
Yeah.
Like it was a huge experience because this brand, even though it was a pharmaceutical brand, right? They sponsored the music video. They sponsored the, recording and just all of it. It was eye-opening at that age as well. So yeah, that was a really crazy experience. And then like the last piece of that time, this political time. So yeah.
Bring down the contract.
The result of I had full ownership of the track, full ownership of the content. And then I went on to do more concerts and spoke at hospitals and worked with Mike a little more when I got to Berklee College of Music. Also they followed me and did a little mini doc, and yeah, got some good press. And I mean, I think ultimately for me with that, it was really about me controlling the narrative, right?
Mm.
Mhm.
Because and ultimately too, that company was the company that drug was causing lymphoma. That got pulled off by the FDA
Whoa.
because it was causing lymphoma at an extremely high rate. So I felt like later on, I was like, I made the right decision.
Yeah.
Because imagine if my song was pushing that drug, right?
Yeah.
And I think as artists, we are in that position, or at least not as much as I want. Hopefully, when we build Prosper, we'll be in that position more. But ultimately, we have the choice of what we support and what our art supports and what our content supports. But yeah.
So you told them no, and they were just like, okay, no problem.
No. I mean, I think we went through back and forths a few times. And ultimately, if I remember correctly, it's just basically I ended up with owning my track and
Mhm.
and owning the visuals.
I mean, what was
But
I mean, were they going to use what's the, I don't know, name a pharmaceutical drug commercial right now where people are dancing around? Was that their
Right.
intention? Like,
Probably.
Yeah.
I probably, I don't know. Like in that contract, what I remember, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm 36 now and I was 16 then.
no, that's all right. I mean, it's just,
I I don't think it wasn't very specific to how they were going to use it. I think for me, and then talking with the lawyer, like what I do remember is that, you know, it was clear to me that whatever the choice was, that like
Mhm.
however they wanted to use it,
Mhm.
it wasn't going to be at my full discretion.
Right.
So I think ultimately I just wanted to have a choice of like what it was, you
Yeah.
know.
Fair
And I
enough.
also wanted to own the masters. Like I wanted to own it,
Yeah.
and so yeah. So yeah.
All right.
Also at that time, one of my best friends, Allie Bain, who has Crohn's disease, she and her parents were both lawyers. She went to an Old Navy and she asked to use the restroom. And with Crohn's and colitis, sometimes you can't control it, right?
Mhm.
Those of you listening that
Yep.
you know. And so she had an accident at an Old Navy.
Mm.
And basically her family was like, well, we're not going to let this happen again to anybody else. So we're going to write a law. And so they wrote a law called the Restroom Access Act, and it's also called referred to as Allie's Law.
Wow.
But at that time, at age 16, I was a part of speaking at Congress and in Washington D.C. and Boston, and
Okay.
you know, on her behalf and of the bill, kind of helping promote. You know, I had a very small piece, Allie. I mean, but for me at that time, what it showed me too at that age was that our voice is very powerful. And it's powerful so much in the fact that it could push federal law
Yeah.
through, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, also just having a vision of what you want in terms of creativity. It's like we're just so powerful, right? But that really showed me politically too. Like you can actually want something to pass at a federal level and get it there.
Yeah.
And this is what it takes,
Yep.
right?
What an
So,
experience. I
yeah.
mean, like, what a predecessor to the rest of what you didn't know at that time, probably to what you want to do for the rest of your life. I mean,
It yeah, you know, I think we go through really hard things, all of us as humans. Like all I think every person is carrying something
yeah.
and at some point will go through something difficult.
Yep.
And I think what I've tried to do as much as I can, and I'm not always good at it, but I've tried to look at each piece of my life, even the hardest parts, and been like, wow, like if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have been in this place or seen this in this way. And I think that time, like losing my dad and being sick, like I'm able to look at that time as like, wow, like that was all, I guess, meant to happen. I mean, I don't know spiritually what I believe, but it's like, I do feel like we're all led to certain places.
Hmm.
And for me, that time and learning all of that allows me to be like, oh, you know what? I was sick for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, like I had to go through this. I had to see these things to get to other places.
I think every human being has a moment like that in their life. I mean, whether it be through something that happened that was bad or something good that happened to, you know, I'm a big believer of the everything happens for a reason, but I think you have to realize that and make whatever is happening to you come true, right? Like you have to realize that you were presented with an opportunity and act on that, right? And then that's when the the afterthought comes like, oh well, if XYZ didn't happen, I would have never had the opportunity to act. So
Mhm.
it's a great story. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if we could move to your background real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, getting involved with Lauren was completely random, but I think one of those things that has a lot of meaning too. We
Yeah.
really connected over. I was working for a local liquor brand, and she wanted some
Okay.
sponsorship,
Yeah.
and I listened to a musician and had the capability to support that musician and provide for the event. And she was really grateful, and it was really surprising to me actually that how grateful she was with what I had provided and offered, because
Mhm.
I would not have thought that was such a big deal, right? And unfortunately, it is, to get like financial sponsorship and a lot of
Mhm.
support sometimes. So we met through that, and then as
Okay.
we kind of bonded and got to know each other, and as we talked a little bit more, let her know that I had actually worked for one of the very first legal digital music subscription companies.
Mm.
And to age myself here a bit, that was back in, see, we closed up in about 2006. I was
Oh
around
wow.
2000.
Okay.
And so when she was telling me the stories of Spotify and the data and how artists are getting paid and what they're getting paid, and I was like, my God, that was 25 years ago that we started writing royalty systems for artists getting paid out of streaming music, and it has not changed
Yep.
at all.
Right.
And so we, as we talked more and more about that, had the opportunity to get involved with Prosper and support her and sort of, using some of my past in technology and operations, and
Yeah.
just really a huge supporter of her mission, and
Yeah.
hearing her story and even more of it today just is like so clear on what has driven her to where she is today and how she can create the movement that she's building and the great team of people she's got behind her.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
that that is one thing that I noticed doing my research on this is the team that you have behind you at such a grassroots level. I would say right now with where you are with Prosper, I mean, you have a phenomenal team. I mean, the folks in this room alone, and
Yeah. And this isn't
um,
even all of
I mean, I know that I'm sure,
Yeah.
and it's not just quantity; it's quality, right? And so that's amazing. So thank you.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
Gabe, what's your story,
Yeah.
man? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I just wanted to add to what Sue was saying too, because, you know, at that time I was directing a nonprofit called $3 Shows that
Mm-hmm.
connected the arts community with the social issues community.
Okay.
And we had a sponsorship deck. And on that sponsorship deck, there was a level that said, do you want to like sponsor an artist directly? Right.
Mm.
And so a part of that sponsorship and what was like incredible for me and what I kept seeing in Austin was companies like Tequila 512 or many other companies that were wanting to directly sponsor artists in that way. But at that time, Tequila 512, also what they were offering was rehearsal space,
Oh,
was
wow.
a space to record a podcast. Like, so what was very unique about that connection too, and Sue also, it was like the week of the show too. Like she was like, you
Yeah.
know what? And but it was it was exciting. And then yeah, I mean, when we met, like Sue has just such an extensive background in technology and also managing huge, like you were the VP of operations. What was the company called again?
That the music one was Music Now.
Yeah, and who
and then
did
it
they
became AOL Music Now. So it
Yeah.
was part of that
Yeah.
too. So
Oh,
that's where I've
wow.
been helping, Lauren in sort of the pitching and receiving funding, is because we went through a purchase by Circuit City. And then they were like, what have we done? We don't understand this. And then we got purchased by AOL. So it was a journey. Yeah.
Goodness. And you've been in Austin your whole career.
No, actually,
Okay.
I've been in Austin for 4 years. So
Oh,
that was
really? Okay.
actually back in Chicago.
Chicago. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right. Spent some time in Chicago this weekend. Went to the Notre Dame game.
Oh, nice.
A&M
Yeah.
Notre Dame.
Yeah.
I love Chicago. So,
Yeah.
okay. But that's anyway. That's cool.
Yeah. Sue's background too, I think, just with just empowerment in general. I mean, you teach, what is the classes called? Do you teach
A
now?
dance fitness class called Work. I've been side gigging
Okay.
as a fitness instructor for a while. So as you talk about like giving and receiving like energy from a room, like
Oh,
that's
yeah.
everything
That's,
there. So
oh,
Yeah.
that
I
is,
relate to that at a smaller level.
I couldn't imagine. I've been to one cycling class and just watching those people just go and they do it 3 or 4 times a day. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah. You're
How do you
welcome
have
to
the
come dance
energy?
with me anytime.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Sue is incredible and just has so much insight and experience, and just also the way she views the world, I think, is really powerful.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Well,
I
thank
think
you.
the same about you.
thank you.
So, Gabe, what's your story, man?
Yeah. No,
Oh,
it's
turn it-
point.
You're filming yourself.
We're hanging out.
Hey, so yeah, I have been involved in the music scene for a very long time. Since I was a teenager, music was an escape for me, and it was something that helped me discover who I was. And since the beginning, I've just kind of been in the spirit of giving back to the music community. One of my first experiences was I was on the volunteer promotional street team for the Ridgely Theater in Fort Worth, Texas.
Okay.
And that involved like hanging flyers up and distributing hanging up posters, distributing flyers and things like that to local record stores.
You were hitting the pavement.
I was
Record stores.
I was on the street team, and we were really focused on grassroots influences.
Okay.
And that gave me a lot of different opportunities. And part of those things were screening the demo tapes and stuff like that that bands would send in to get a show, things like that. So we would meet on Sundays and we'd hang out in the back office and just listen to tape after tape after tape, and we heard some really amazing artists and some really not so amazing
God, I could
artists.
not imagine.
But all came from mostly the local Fort Worth and Dallas music scene.
Okay.
And
What years was this? Trying to think who,
oh
who you
gosh,
might have been exposed to.
2002, 2003.
Nice.
While working at the Ridgely Theater, I did bar backing too at the same
Okay.
time. That was one of my first jobs, and I stocked the green room for like Flicker Stick and Bowling for Soup and Typo Negative. I sold merch for Bright Eyes, things like
Okay.
that. And that also, there was a girl there. Her name's Jeanette. She was, I guess, some sort of marketing promoter by trade, and we became friends. And she got involved with this community called Buzz Oven, and Buzz Oven had this mission in the Dallas Fort Worth music scene to record bands on like demo CDs, mixtapes, kind of, and then distribute as many like free CDs as they can, and then hold like a showcase concert. Sometimes there were a few different shows, and it all got sponsored by Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola would foot the bill for
Nice.
all of these shows and all of this promotional material, and they would pay for the bands to come and record a song just for this demo CD. And I was on the street team there too. I was the leader for the Hearst Euless Bedford chapter of it, and I participated in the Fort Worth chapter. And that was all. I had just learned to drive basically, so I was like
Yeah.
16.
Mm.
And that's how I spent my weekends, was basically just hanging around venues with big black X's on my hands, because I couldn't drink. And yeah, that's I was just there. And so I've always, as much as I stepped into myself as a person, I've always been in the music scene.
Yeah.
And I moved to Austin when my wife started going to UT in 2004.
All right.
And I got out of the music scene for a long time. Just didn't have the drive to go and do it until I had moved into a house in Southwest Austin at Oak Hill, and my next door neighbors had switched out, and the people who moved in there was a band, and
Absolutely.
they were really good.
Really good.
They were phenomenal musicians.
Who was it?
It was Isaiah the Mosaic. They didn't have a
Okay.
name at the time,
Okay.
but they came from Denton.
Now called Palm Days.
They are called Palm Days now. They are strictly just recording now. They've retired from playing live. But during that period, I kind of took on roles as their visual art director, their manager in different ways, and so I got to kind of see how all of the nitty gritty of the business of music worked, and familiarize myself with the process of booking shows and trying to coordinate between yourself and advocating for yourself and people in your scene. And it just kind of showed me how much you need your community to really succeed in today's music world.
Yeah.
And
And that was 20 years ago.
this was 2010.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So,
not quite so
I mean,
long ago, but it's still changed
yeah.
even since then.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably part of the reason why the Palm Days isn't playing shows anymore, unfortunately, which I
lot of
really
musicians
miss.
from
And
that
is it
time, right?
PALM days?
PALMDAZE.
Okay.
Yeah, and I made several music videos for them. I'm a filmmaker sometimes too. I wear many different hats. I've had many different jobs throughout my life,
All
all
right.
different kinds of stuff. Um,
And what a time that was too.
it was
Yeah.
that was a golden age, I think, in the Austin music scene.
What kind of music were they?
We called ourselves Mom Rock. Yeah. And this was like before dad rock like really became popular,
Yeah.
or and it was kind of maybe the dawn of what we call yacht rock now.
Okay.
And so we were heavily influenced by Peter Gabriel, Radiohead,
Yeah.
very synth heavy driven. They had the Juno featured very heavily in the
Mm.
music. Um,
And you were doing projections.
I was doing projections.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's
All right.
that's kind of what led me to connect with Lauren. I don't really remember it when we first met. Do you?
Yeah, no,
I don't really remember how we
don't-
first met.
I don't remember how we first met. I just know I was doing music at that time too, and
Yeah.
doing $3 shows.
I can only imagine that we had some sort of show together. It might have been a $3 show. I don't think so,
Yeah.
though. I think it might have
But
been
you
right
did
before you started.
projections for Les
did.
Rav, the band at the time.
I did, yeah. So I was doing. I was probably one of the first projection artists in Austin, and that was a whole process. Learning how to do that, catching up with technology. When I first started doing it, I was basically recording the band's practice sessions and then playing it over and over and over again, and then cutting like an hour-long music video, like to play it with them live. And
Okay.
they didn't really like that because it required them to
What venues was this? Were y'all playing at?
it's funny, a lot of what we played are now gone, unfortunately. Our first show was at Headhunters.
Okay.
And then we played Strange Brew. We played Momo's.
Where's
Wow.
Strange Brew? I was trying to think.
Strange Brew was down off Manchac.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's where it's Captain Quacks now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I've heard of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That room
It was
is
a
awesome.
great. I mean, it was a great venue.
Yeah.
It was so great, but they didn't survive.
Yeah.
They couldn't survive. They got locked out of the venue
Like
because they couldn't
physically locked.
afford it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we played. Where else did we play? We played Stubbs Indoor. We played Mohawk. Mohawk, is still one of my favorite venues
yeah.
for sure.
There's something about that pit, and it's kind of sunken. You got the 2-tiered thing, but the second
Mhm.
tier is super close to the stage. You
Yeah.
feel like you could jump in
Yeah.
onto.
It's
I don't know.
intimate.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. I love that place.
Did you also play Chacon Collective too? Did we book you?
I don't
Didn't-
remember that one.
Okay, I'm trying to remember if we. Well, anyway, yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
cool.
So long story short, I met Lauren doing projections, and I started doing projections for her musical act, Les Rav. And we just became, lifelong friends. And Lauren was actually the first person that I told that when my wife and I were pregnant. So
Love
that
it.
was a very
I
special
remember that
Love it.
moment. I'll never
bond for
forget
us.
that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
But you
That's
got into
beautiful.
tech too.
Yeah,
though.
I was always in tech too.
Okay.
That was I've been a systems engineer for a long time, IT systems engineer.
Okay.
And I worked for 13 years for an MSP, which serviced a lot of different clients in all sorts of different industries, and that ranged from doctors' offices to sometimes a music venue, restaurants, law, and I made a lot of different contacts through all of that.
But what did you do when you were younger? Right at middle school.
Yeah, one
This
of
is-
my
I love this.
so my 4th grade teacher noticed that I had an aptitude for computers, and she would ask me to come and fix the computers in the classroom after school, like
As a
all the
4th
time.
grader.
As a 4th
That's
grader.
how we got into tech. Like,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, and
That's cool.
Yeah, 4th grade
That's
IT
awesome.
guy.
That is awesome.
yeah,
And what year was that?
Gonna date myself. That was 96, 97,
Yeah.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were
What a
old
time that was. for
Macs
tech.
Yeah.
before even like the colored iMacs.
Mhm.
Those
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What was the game? God, Oregon Trail.
Oregon Trail.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
absolutely.
Everybody died
yeah,
in that game.
Yeah, everybody. Y'all
From
remember
what,
that one.
dysentery, or what is that the thing you died from?
Yeah.
In there? Was
Yes.
that it?
Oh my god. Totally.
So there was
Those
no
were the days though.
there were no controls on the computers, so the kids would like change all the settings or whatever on them, and she could never figure out how to get them back. So that's what I would come in there
Yeah.
and basically reset the computers for her.
That's cool.
Dang. All right. So what's your story, man?
Oh my.
Terrany.
My story is a little bit longer because I'm a little bit older, but I've been doing music my whole life. Born and raised in Austin, Texas.
Okay.
Um, mailed my first demo when I was 8 years old to Warner
Wow.
Brothers. So I kind of knew early what I wanted to do. And in order to take those steps to achieve that, my mother was a teacher. So she
Okay.
taught my brother, she taught all my friends,
Yeah.
everybody in the
Yeah.
neighborhood knew my mom. So she would tell me, if you're going to do music, what are the steps that you need to take to achieve that goal, right? It was always analytical. What are the steps I need to walk through to achieve that?
Mm.
So I was like, well, I want to get a record deal. I need to find a record label. And in order to find a record label, I need to look at a record. I need to look on some records. So my dad was like the neighborhood DJ. Everybody knew my father.
All right.
So I went through his records and I found Prince's Controversy album. That was like 83, maybe,
Okay.
something like that.
Yeah.
And on the back of it, it said Warner Brothers Records, Wilshire Boulevard. And it said this guy wrote, produced, engineered, composed all his own
I
stuff.
love it.
And so to me, that's how I thought you made records. I didn't know you needed a band, you needed a drummer. I was like, I'll just play everything. I'll just produce my own
Oh
demos.
yeah.
So just started producing a bunch of demos at Sears. When my mom would go shopping at Sears, I would take my dad's blues tapes
Okay.
from at home, and I would go to Sears where they had the boombox sections, the radios, and I would get one of the synthesizers, a little Casio, and put it in front of the boombox, put my cassette in, and I would record my demos
Okay.
like that and try to record as many songs as I could before my mom was ready to go.
Damn.
So that was maybe like every Sunday I would do like 10 songs. And it got to the point where the staff knew that I was recording. They
Mhm.
caught on. So they would kind of keep people away from me and kind
Really?
of block it off.
What
So
a
I could just-
story, man.
So I could just record all these demos. So I mailed that to Warner Brothers and they wrote me back and was like, this is cool, but you're a little too young and it's not
Mhm.
what we're looking for. But
Yeah.
it was really a rejection letter,
Yeah.
but it was in the nicest, sweetest way to me.
Yeah.
And to me, that's what really motivated me and was like, okay, I feel seen now coming from Austin.
Mhm.
We didn't really have no music infrastructure at the time.
Yeah.
And I was one of the youngest out of really everybody I knew who was thinking that. A lot of my friends were like football,
Mhm.
basketball, whatever. And I was like, I want to do music at 8.
Wow.
So I just stuck with it. And, I've had a blessed career to go from that to, Grammy nominations to helping other nonprofits. I think I met Lauren at one of your $3 shows, maybe when I was one of the advisors of Austin Music Foundation.
Yeah,
I think
Mm.
yeah.
I think we had a table
we
there.
did a $3 show for them.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So I
Raised
helped.
$800.
I helped start Austin Music Foundation, which was a nonprofit where we would give grants to artists.
Mhm.
We would give like $20,000 to bands to like either fix their truck, either put out records, or just to advance their career. That
Yeah.
model's been done a couple of more times since.
Yeah. Sonic Guild.
Like Sonic
or
Guild.
Black Fred.
Yeah, I work
Yeah.
with Sonic Guild, Black
Okay.
Fred, all that
Yeah.
too. And and Sonic Guild and Black Fred is like part 2 of Austin Music Foundation. It's
Gotcha.
all of us. It's
Yeah.
the same thing.
Okay.
It's a
Same
continuation
people.
of that. Yeah.
So Matt and that,
Yeah.
and that crew.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm always about advocacy for artists.
Yeah.
I speak at colleges. I've spoken at Macomb School of Business a few times. Prairie View. I'm always teaching artists how to own their music, how to retain their ownership, how to create sustainable revenue from the music that we make. Because as artists, when we make an album, we're thinking about, okay, I made that album. That's cool. Let me make 10 more new songs.
Mm.
But with that original record, there's sync, there's licensing, there's placements. So this record still has legs on it. And in Austin, especially, that conversation is not really had on how to sustain revenue from that particular project. So I do a lot of sync stuff for movies, TV, and film now, like Breaking Bad, Rick and Morty, Transformers.
Okay.
A lot of stuff. It's hard to think
Yeah.
of right now.
Yeah. No.
But that's kind of the space I'm in right now as far
Okay.
as sync and stuff.
Yeah.
But working with Lauren is the other part of my heart as far as helping artists and help, because you think of musicians and artists. Some of the best musicians and artists are like still baristas, still doing this, still bagging
Oh, yeah.
groceries, and they're amazing.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the knowledge base to take what they already have and go to the next level with it.
Mhm.
And in Austin, a lot of musicians think they can't do it because we're in Austin.
Yeah.
But I've never had to leave Austin to be successful.
I mean, that's your prime example.
Yeah, you
I mean,
can
yeah.
you can do it. Like I always tell people, we all got the same internet, but we all don't have the same hustle.
Ooh.
Man, put
I
that
need
on
that
a
sticker.
t-shirt.
Yeah,
Put
that
that-
needs to. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah. I've got one of those buttons somewhere.
Yeah, I know you did. That's what I did. I know you got
The edit,
to.
the- Yeah,
yeah.
totally.
You know what I mean? And that's why I'm all about teaching art. I surround myself with people who are smarter than me, people who've been in the business longer than me, people who, one of my mentors, he's like the lawyer for Yolanda Adams, Usher, a
Wow.
lot of those
Okay.
people. So if I get a contract that I don't fully understand, then I can send it to him and he'll just be like, do this, do that, do this, do that. And a lot of things in my life weren't like linear, one thing after the next. A lot of it was intersectional.
Hmm.
So I worked for South by Southwest. I was
Okay.
booking all the hip hop for that. That was like at the end of,
You were booking?
I was booking all the hip hop showcases for South by
Okay.
Southwest. Like I got all the bands, I booked the venues, I did all that.
When did you stop that? Because
I probably stopped my term. They're still doing it, but my
Yeah.
term was like 4 years. I probably stopped at like 99, like right after I got my deal
Okay.
with Interscope. I was
Okay.
like, I'm out of here.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
So-
he was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like,
I was going to
I'm
thank
done.
you for booking Chance the Rapper in 2012. 'cause
No,
that was my favorite.
One of my
That was my
first groups I booked was Company Flow,
Okay.
which had LP, who's now in Run the Jewels with
Yeah.
Killer Mike.
Yeah.
So that was his first time coming to Austin, and they thanked me on their record too because that was their first time being here, and we just really
I love their shows,
Yeah.
man. God,
So-
I love their shows.
it's amazing. So working at South by Southwest, I was also working at Arista Records.
Okay.
We had, there was a point in time in Austin where there was a bunch of record labels here where
Okay.
you could like almost throw like Congress was basically record label alley. You know how they think of Nashville
Yeah.
with so many labels? That was Congress at one
I've
time.
never heard that.
Yeah, so there was Elektra, there was Polygram, there was Universal, there were MCA.
Okay.
All those labels at the time were in abundance. So I worked at Arista Records. It was called Arista Austin. And that was the same time I worked at South by Southwest. So I was able to learn the business while working at a label. And the president of the label, he would give me contracts. Like we would sign a band. He would give me the actual contract and say, go home and read this contract. And, highlight what you think is good, what you think is bad, what's a good term, whatever. And I would bring it back and he'd be like, that's correct, that's incorrect, that's correct, that's So my schooling was actually hands-on at the record label. So my knowledge base is different than other people who might Google an answer
Yeah.
or whatever. Like I
Yeah.
actually saw how to maintain your career, your ownership of your masters, how to negotiate for points, how to figure out, the territories your records are going to be in. And all that translated into my sync part of my life. Because
Yeah.
I have 39 albums, 39 T-double records.
Whoa.
Mhm.
So I'm able to sync a lot of my catalog in various ways,
Yeah.
right? Like I own all the chess pieces, which is kind of what Lauren is talking about, owning your career.
Yeah.
So if I'm doing sync and I have that many records, I can give 5 different sync agents 5 records apiece. And then I tell each one of them they have 2 months to give me 2 syncs, 2 placements in TV, film, whatever.
Okay.
And if they don't, I take those records back and give them another 5 and give somebody else these records.
I see.
So I put the pressure on them.
Yeah.
As artists are really like, I'll sign with you and hope for the best.
Yeah.
I tell them
I
what to
see.
do.
And are those agents, they're motivated by a cut, I assume?
Yeah,
of-
they all get a cut, but that's all negotiable. Like some people who get into a sync deal arrangement with an agent, the going rate, so to speak, is 50-50.
Okay.
So if I got your music in a TV show, I take 50 for getting it in there. You get the other 50. But that's not a law. I always say that's a suggestion.
Yeah. I
How about
see.
you give me 50% of what you're doing?
Yeah.
And artists are so quick to get into that space,
Well,
they accept that.
and they're hungry.
Yeah, and they'll do that.
Literally.
Yeah, but you can always say no. You can always, my first sync deal, the agent got like 13%, and that's been in place for years. We've never went back and talked about it. We never went back and discussed it. It just rolled over.
Yeah.
So if you don't ask for it, closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't ask for it and know what you bring to the table, then they'll take your 50% all the time.
Yeah.
They'll retitle your song. They'll put a new title to a song you did, and they'll put it with BMI or ASCAP or PRO,
Wow.
and they'll shop that version.
Wow.
So even if you stop working with them, they'll still be generating revenue off the song you did because they retitle it as something else.
in that scenario, would they do that if you own the masters? Or could they do that if you own the masters?
They definitely could do that. They definitely
Wow.
could do that if you own the masters.
God.
So like if we did a song together and we say Austin Music People in T-double and we put it out and that's the name of our song, and then somebody wants to put it in sync, they could call it Austin Music People in T-double in Austin, put that version with BMI or ASCAP, and then they'll push that version harder
Yeah.
because now they're a co-writer on it. Or now they're a composer on it, or they just get a percentage of it. So when that version gets picked up, we're happy because we got a placement. But now this other person
Yeah,
It's
I
still
mean,
getting
yeah,
something forever because
right,
publishing is your forever
yeah,
money.
right,
You know what I mean? A royalty is for now.
yeah,
Touring is for now. Merch is for now. Your publishing is for your kids. Like Quincy Jones, you know, he'll pass away. He passed away. He left $900 million of, you know, assets to collect
mm-hmm,
for his children. That's his
mm-hmm,
children, his grandchildren. That's Ella Fitzgerald. That's Frank Sinatra. That's, you know, The Wiz. That's Sanford and Son. That's all the projects he's worked on. And because he retained that publishing, he can do whatever he wants to do with it.
So and this was supposed to be an intro about you, man. Why are you making my brain go now? No,
That's what
but
it's like talking with T.
I love talking about
She's
this.
so
so
knowledgeable.
why are I think Bieber was the latest one to
Right.
sell for like half a bill or a
Right.
bill or whatever.
Mhm.
Is he selling the publishing aspect of that, or is he just selling the master? Like, how does a deal like that
Some of those
work?
deals vary, but in most cases, when they do a full-on catalog sale,
Yeah,
you're selling everything.
yeah,
You're selling the publishing, the
okay,
master. You're selling any ancillary deals you might have.
okay,
Everything, you just give it all up for that 100 million. Like Sting sold some, Bob Dylan sold
mm-hmm,
some of the older bands, some of the legacy bands
right,
are doing that now. And that's kind of like a sign of the market, right? Where they see sales are dropping.
yeah,
Let's get out of it quick, like
yeah,
stocks, right? Like let's sell it right now. Let's sell it for 100 million, 200 million while
yeah,
you can. And there's various companies that specialize in buying catalogs. And they'll buy your catalog and then they'll take it into the sync space.
hmm,
So now they have your catalog. Now I can put it into film and you no longer get anything from
yeah.
it. And I can put it in film, commercials, blah, 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 all
And
these
they're
other
just
things.
making money
Yeah,
off
they're just
all
making
that.
more money. So it's all about educating the artists and making them more knowledgeable of what they have. Like I said, I think I said in one of Lauren's videos, each song and everything you have is like your own little brick of gold. Like it's your own Fort Knox. Your catalog is your Fort Knox. How much do you want to give that away? And how much do you want to keep? You know what I'm saying? And if you want to keep majority of that to yourself, then you have to own the publishing. You have to own the master. You got to do the paperwork, and that's not sexy.
No,
So artists
yeah,
don't like talking that part, and that's why you see some artists get a deal. 10 years later, they're complaining about their manager.
mm-hmm,
He made me sign that deal, or
mm-hmm,
the label, or
mm-hmm,
whatever. Right? No, you made that choice, but you'd have nobody there who really cared about you,
mm-hmm,
not really what they get from you. And that's where I'm also really blessed too. I have a lot of industry folks around me who care about me and my success and not just what they can get from me. So they always give me the best, purest advice, whether it's hard truth or it's, you know, a rave review. They're like, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And they introduce me to people. They introduced me to Quincy Jones. I met Prince. I'm able to sit down with these folks and be like, teach me how to do what you do.
yeah,
I don't go to them and say, I'm the best rapper. I'm the best. That comes later.
yeah,
I
yeah,
got that. I'm blessed with that. I can do that later. Teach me the business structure so that younger artists, when they get 52
yeah,
or they get whatever, they can kind of slow down a little bit, right?
yeah,
You put things in place when you're younger. So when you get older, you don't have to gig all the time on 6th Street,
yeah,
right? You don't
I
still
see.
have to go out and try to play for that tip jar against
Yeah,
college kids,
yeah,
right? The market is different now to get in there. You don't have
yeah,
the social media platform at your fingertip. You don't know how to use it yet, while the younger artists are all over that.
yeah.
So you're competing against two different things.
It's two different worlds.
Yeah.
It literally is two different worlds.
Yeah, but if you build that up and get that in place when you're younger, even when you're older, and just have the right people around you to say, you know, you got a great catalog of songs, or you know, tell musicians you don't have to be the front guy. You're a great songwriter. Let's shop your songs to other people to sing.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? There's so many ways that you can do that without all, you know, it's the ego base. I want people to see
Yeah.
me singing.
Right. Yeah.
Like I would like with sync, it's great. Like just take my music and put it out there, and I can wake up every morning in my pajamas and not have to worry about running out doing gigs anymore unless I want to. You know, you want to get to a point where you're doing what you're doing for fun and not just for funds.
Enya is a good example of that too,
Yes.
right?
Enya?
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
she
Yep.
lives in a castle,
Yep.
doesn't tour
Yep.
while her music
And it's doable. It's doable.
Yeah.
makes money.
Yeah.
So
It's doable. Artists just need to
And
see it more. They just need to see people living that way of life through their music more to know that it's doable.
Terrany, is there like a minimum level of recordings that people should have for getting involved in sync?
Yeah. When I got into sync, I was told the minimal amount of songs you should have is 50. And I know most people can't do that because of, you know, recording limitations, or they don't have the studio, or they don't have the
Mhm.
gear. But I recommend 20 songs for somebody.
Is
Because if somebody like people give me songs, right? So if you gave me your EP, which is like 5 to 7
Mhm.
songs, everybody has a song that's perfect for the Super Bowl, perfect for whatever, right? You're
Mhm.
like, I got this one song that's perfect.
Yeah.
The music supervisor might not think so.
Yeah.
And they might go through all those 7 and say, what else you got?
Yeah. Yeah.
You spent your whole life on that 7.
Yeah.
You have nothing else.
Yeah.
You're out the game.
It's just a numbers game,
So
I
it's all
guess.
about catalog. I
Yeah.
always say catalogs matter. You got to record as much music you can all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. So when the stars do line up, when your situation approaches, those 7, you don't like them, here's 7 more. You don't
Now,
like that, here's 7 more.
what's your take on it being perfect music, perfectly recorded?
It doesn't have to be for sync.
See, that's the thing that I think people might get tripped up on.
Yeah,
is
sync will take, like if we all sat in a circle right now and hummed a melody on a cell phone,
Mhm.
I could probably sync that to something because maybe they have a scene of some kids sitting outside by a bonfire or
Yeah.
some people sitting somewhere
Yeah.
humming. You're placed.
Yeah.
You know, and
There you
your
go.
music and film becomes the other actor in the scene. So you can negotiate money differently. Like, you know, when I'm presented with something, I'll ask what film studio is releasing that.
Hmm.
Is it Lionsgate? Is it Paramount? Is it whatever? Because that means the budget is at a certain level. Who's starring in that movie? Is it De Niro? Is it Denzel? That means you have a budget for the actors.
Yeah.
Most music budget for film, TV, etc., is as high or more than the actors starring within that film. So if they come to you and say, I can only give you 1,000, they're hoping you take that.
Yeah.
And you don't really do your research and ask the proper questions to say, do this. Just like if somebody wants to book you for a show, but they want you to sell the tickets. Obviously, they thought you were good enough for the show. They should be paying you for the show.
Right. And so on the budget thing, if you're making $100 million movie,
Mhm.
what is the music budget typically?
$100 million movie,
Yeah.
it'd probably be about 20 million.
So 20 million.
Yeah.
And then of that 20 million, you're hiring Hans, right? So
Right.
what's he
Oh,
running?
Hans might take your whole budget
Okay.
because
Okay.
he's that big, right? But
Yeah.
if you're dealing with smaller level artists,
Yeah.
what they try to do is buy your song from you,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
They won't do a split. They won't do publishing. They won't do all that with you. They don't want to go back and forth. They'll be like, we like your song. Here's 5,000.
Hmm.
Can we have the whole song? It's called an all-in deal.
Of a $20 million budget.
Yeah, they'll be like, we want all in. And most artists, you know, they've never been approached like that before. They never had that much money at once before. They'll take it.
Yep.
And then the show becomes really big, you know.
Yeah.
Like my Breaking Bad placement, I like to bring that one up because of how that happened. They approached me for using one of my songs and they offered me X amount of dollars. And at the time I was like, oh, that's, you know, this was 2010.
Hmm.
I was like, oh, that's a nice little check, right? But then the person I was working with making that deal, this is where friendship comes in. She was like, you know, they already put your song to the film, right? To the picture. They already synced it because they assumed I would take the money. So then that gave me the power to make a better deal for myself where I said, I want the masters, I want the publishing, I want everything. I want a non-exclusive deal. That way I can license that song to something else like I did with Rick and Morty and other things. And you're able to make all these other different situations from it. But you have to know going in there that you have that option.
So parlaying this into Prosper.
Yeah.
So I think the through your story, I've kind of gained an understanding of, you know, what brought you to start Prosper. But what would you say is do you have a specific mission statement, or what is the mission of Prosper?
Yeah. Well, before I get to that, I wanted
Yeah.
to make just a real quick comment.
Yeah. Sure.
Just kind of along with what Terrany's talking about, because, you know, there's two pieces of, and I guess that connects part of to the mission, right? Like, you know, the artists and society has devalued the artist on a lot of levels, right? There's that whole piece that I want to go deeper into, right? But what I love about Terrany and how he speaks about artist empowerment and who he is as an artist, right? It's also about bringing up the fact that we have been complicit in our own devaluation as well, right? We're signing these contracts, we're putting our music on these platforms, we're playing these shows, we're playing for free, right? And so what I love about Terrany is like bringing up the conversation around how do we then empower ourselves to take the power back. Because with Prosper, it certainly is about building a system that can lead to sustainability and give more power and equity and control to the artist ultimately. That's a big piece of it. But it's also about providing education and resource around the path of empowerment and ownership and steps you can take as an artist in your own life without anything attached to that.
Hmm.
Without a technology, without this, without that. And I love that Terrany always speaks to that because I think because of what has happened in the music industry and also just how society has been complicit in the devaluation, I think the artist has internalized that. So on some level, we have also accepted that that's what we get.
Yeah,
You
how
know,
it's supposed to be.
and
Yeah.
when you talk to education and how important, like that's why starting the town halls 5 months ago was one of the first things we did, right? I always say, systematic change, it starts with education and listening, but education is such a huge piece of it, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of what's going on with artists is because they ultimately maybe don't have all of the education or the resource, or even if they do, they don't even know what to learn first,
Right.
right?
Which
Or
Yeah.
part
what
of
to
it? Yeah.
access. So I think I think it's so powerful, and someone like Terrany and a lot of the people we've been working with already are people like that when we have the technology, I want to have those mentorship videos available, those like consultations of like what you can do like right now to empower
Mhm.
yourself, and those like direct connections, right, where
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, anyway,
Yeah.
I think it's powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
um I do want to just finish kind of the second half of my journey because I
Oh
think
yeah.
it plays
Okay.
into what Prosper
Okay.
is. And I'll spark note it.
No, that's
Um,
fine. Yeah.
but basically, after that whole thing when I was 16, I applied to one college, got in. The Berklee College of Music was a songwriting major. I minored in music business, learned so much there and met a lot of incredible, impactful people. And when I got to Austin, so my band at Berklee, they were all from Texas and they left the first year.
Mm.
And they moved to Austin.
Oh wow.
I stayed because I was like, I did not I worked so hard to get here.
Yeah,
I'm
no
not
kidding.
leaving the first year. Plus, I didn't feel like I learned what I needed to yet. But they came back on tour the second year, which was 2009. And they were like, we need you in Austin. And at that time, you were hearing a lot about Austin. It was a
Mm.
great time, 2009. And so I was like, you know what? I think like I have what I need from Berklee. I'll move to Austin. When I got here, I knew just because of all the experiences and just because I saw the power of art and activism up
Mhm.
to that point, I was like, I want to start an organization that connects the arts community with the social issues community. And when I moved here, there was a band called Bankrupt and the Borrowers. They had a house fire. Their trumpet player, John Pettis, passed away.
Mhm.
My goodness.
And, I was working with the Sims Foundation. The Sims Foundation, which is an organization in Austin that provides little to no cost mental health
Mhm.
resource. I had my therapist through there. They were an organization that I was like, oh, this is the first organization that I want to benefit with what we're doing. And it just naturally happened that this band wanted to have a funeral, a show to raise funds for the funeral,
Mhm.
and they wanted to support the Sims Foundation. And so the first $3 show was in our backyard in North Austin off Runberg. We had a recording studio in the backyard and like a beautiful stage and a trampoline.
Nice.
And these shows, basically, it was between 10 and 15 local businesses and vendors.
Okay.
So artists of all types,
Yeah.
jewelers, glass blowers, like you name it, live art. And then we would always have between 5 and 6 bands and then a centralized cause. So I did that. Well, I did that up until 5 months ago.
Wow. And $3 shows.
$3 shows.
And
Yeah.
you were charging $3 at the door.
Yeah.
Is that the name?
Yeah. Well, it actually, I mean, another side story, it started as $2 shows because we had a friend, Spencer Ludwig, in LA. He actually was a trumpet player for this band called Capital Cities. Really cool guy. And we were talking with him about what we wanted to start in Austin. And he was like, well, I started this thing called $2 shows in LA in my backyard. And he told us about it.
Mm.
And it was the same structure. And we all decided, we were like, we'll just bring it to Austin. He literally, we FaceTimed him, or whatever it was called at that time, on the projection screen, and he said hi to everybody and like,
Oh, that's cool.
introduced himself. And so we were doing them together in LA and then Austin. We'd like every month we would try and do them at the same time or
Okay.
around the same time and
cool.
co-promote the shows. That's how it started, yeah.
Okay.
But Spencer got so big in the band that he was in, and he was like, you know what? I think I'm going to stop $2 shows. I might do it again someday. So can you guys just change the name of what you're doing? And we're like, yeah, man, totally. It'll be $3 shows.
Right.
And everybody always jokes like inflation. It's so funny. It's hilarious. But yeah, I continued on to do it. I was very, very sick for a long time. So, there would be years I would have to stop because I would be hospitalized. But I continued to do it up until 5 months ago. But yeah, that's kind of the connection of the sponsorship and how that helped. Also, through doing those shows too, I just saw the power of like community and collaboration and cross promotion and local business.
Mm.
Like that was something I hadn't seen up until doing $3 shows, was just the power of local business and local companies. And when you think about it, local business, they're entrepreneurs the same level as an independent musician, right?
No
So
doubt.
that union is very, very beautiful and powerful. So yeah, I think basically, so 2015, I was approached. At this point, I had never been in the tech world. I was approached by a company called Solstice Live. Matt Ford, still the CEO. Well, it's called Prism.fm. But Matt Ford and Adrian Taveras, who was the CTO, those were the only two with Solstice Live. They approached me as an artist to get on the platform. So their platform at that time connected artists directly with venues and gigs. And at that time, 2015, I don't think there was anything out there doing that. Certainly not like, now there's like Gig Salad and like all of these apps that certainly are successful at doing it. But at that time, and also in Austin, for me, when I was approached by them as an artist, I was like, oh my God. Because tech wasn't massive.
Yeah.
It's bigger now than it was then. But for me, anyway, it was a big, impactful thing. So I set up a meeting with him. I learned more about what they were doing. And at the time, I was going to start my own production company alongside $3 shows. But I was like, you know what? These are two tech guys that love music, but I don't think they're going to know exactly how to like book gigs with their platform. And certainly I want them to take care of artists, right? And so because of my experience and like learning about equity, I basically approached them. They were like, we'll give you $50 an artist you get on your platform and $50 a venue. I was like, how about this? You give me equity in the company. I start my production company through Solstice, call it Solstice Presents, and I'm a part of the artist wing, like building up the artist wing of the technology, basically. And I worked for them for 4.5 years. I was booking album releases every month. We did a festival for 3 years at Pan Am Park called Solstice Festival.
Hannah and Park.
Pan Am Park, it's on the east
Okay.
side. Beautiful,
Okay.
beautiful space.
Well, I've never been.
And I was also seeing a technology be built, right? Which was super eye-opening. What ended up happening the fourth year, 2019, a big investor, a VC, stepped in, and essentially what happened was they didn't want to work with artists anymore. They wanted that platform to be an internal venue booking and management platform. So they essentially walked away from working with the artists, and that was when I was like, well, I think it's my time to walk away too. Like there was no bad blood. It was like that was the moment I knew someday I was going to start an artist-centered technology.
Okay.
I didn't know what it looked like yet.
Yeah.
then COVID hit, basically. I had 8 surgeries. I also had my daughter.
My goodness.
Yeah, it was wild. But thank God I had those surgeries because I haven't been in the hospital for almost 3 years. And it's allowed me to do Prosper and make that decision.
And live your life. I mean,
Well, and live my life. Yeah.
yeah.
But, during COVID, I think I spent a lot of time learning about data ownership and learning what was happening on platforms like Spotify and what was happening, when you uploaded your content to these platforms. And I think what really hit me was, really seeing that raw granular data around a fan for an artist. They Spotify specifically, they know everything about the fan, like what they're listening on, how they're listening, their mood, and who knows at this point with AI, they're just learning so much.
Yeah.
But certainly they also have the direct connection, right? And then they use that data and incur more revenue through sponsorship and ad spend. And then they're in partnership with major labels. And it certainly doesn't trickle down back to the artist. I think only the top 1% will ever see any substantial amount from something like Spotify.
From one of your pamphlets, there's a lot of eye-opening stats, but I think it was 0.003 cents a stream.
Yeah,
And
under a penny.
And it was like 800,000 streams a month to make the minimum wage.
To make minimum wage.
That is wild.
Insanity.
It's
I learned today that earlier last year that there was the minimum threshold that you had to reach, and Spotify actually delisted 157 million songs.
Yeah.
Because they
Whoa.
couldn't reach the minimum amount of streams to make the output payments or the payouts, and so they said it only represents.
My dog just
Well,
if anybody heard that, none of us farted.
that's-
That was the host dog.
that was not us this time.
That's how Leo feels about Spotify.
Exactly.
We agree.
We agree. We concur.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
my
does he have to
goodness.
go out?
Let me just throw him out real quick.
Yeah. Should we keep talking?
Yeah, we can keep
while
going.
Sue
Yeah,
is-
all right.
Okay.
So before
So what
Leo,
were you saying? Before the toot break.
I can't believe that happened. That's
That was
awesome.
too funny.
So,
So
Spotify delisted.
recently, I learned that Spotify they put a minimum rule in place last year in I think 2024, and basically, if your song doesn't get the minimum amount of plays to reach the payout thresholds, it gets delisted, and they delisted like 157 million songs,
Yeah.
which to them it was only 0.5% of the total amount of songs that were listed, but that really matters to the people who were counting on even just the few dollars a month that it was getting.
Yeah.
And so even now, even if you get a few hundred plays, you're not going to get that money.
Well,
Yeah. And go ahead.
no.
No, I was gonna say also, the reason this is such a big deal too, because 84% of recorded music revenue comes from streaming.
Mhm.
So when you look at that and it's like, okay, wait, the math isn't mathing, but also there is a big piece about data, and it's not just the platforms that are cashing out on this data, right? You can look at festivals and they have that same type of structure, right? When you think of something like South by, or even venues, like I can't name a specific venue. I don't know the specific venues doing this, but when you play a show, there's data around a show, right?
Mhm.
There's people attending, there's,
Oh my
revenue
goodness.
being
Yeah.
made, right?
Certainly, like Live
Yeah.
Nation.
Well,
Mhm.
Live Nation is a great example of taking that data and ownership and just
Yeah.
God and totally stripping it away from the artist,
Mhm.
right? And I mean, Spotify is that same type of giant. So I think really, there's a lot of aspects where we could look at data and equity and see that it's not being offered to the artist, yet it would be so valuable, right? And so I think that learning that during COVID, digging deeper into that, and then ultimately being at the ground level. I had 4 friends commit suicide in the past 5 years. And those were musicians. One of them was someone in the industry that I would like, was working at venues. One of them was an artist that literally like was just he was always giving, I think that's too like for me being an artist, I see artists and they will always give. They could have nothing on their back and they will give you whatever they have, right? And that's beautiful, right? And that's something I don't want to change. But what I want to change is the exploitative nature of society and the expectation that that is what an artist should do, right? And that exposure is enough, right? There's this tagline that we have where it's like, stop romanticizing the starving artist, right?
Mm.
Or culture without care is just exploitation. And it's a bigger conversation, right? Because a big piece of that too is it would be great if society could see artists were more than entertainers, right? We're cultural partners. And that there's proof in that when you look, arts and culture, the US GDP brought in $1.2 trillion last year. Austin itself, I know I've been saying this a lot on socials lately, but Austin itself last year brought in billions and
Yeah.
billions of dollars, right? In
Mhm.
I think I don't know if it was the Austin statistic or globally, but the amount of jobs that the music industry brings to our industry or to culture, it's
Yeah.
like also insane. Um, but yeah, so I think the data ownership and then also just the sustainability aspect. I think sync and licensing is a great example,
Mhm.
but it's not easily accessible. Certainly not currently. I mean, you could talk more on that,
Yeah.
T.
Yeah.
But basically, when you look at the full industry and you look at the statistics around artists living under the poverty line or at the poverty line, and then you look at the statistics around how many jobs they're working, all of this just compounds, and you're like, wow, we need a more sustainable path.
Yeah.
And because of what I saw with $3 shows and my history, I was just like, wait a second, brands.
Yeah.
I think at that time too, like Lady Gaga had just released with Visa, MasterCard. Doechii had just did something with
Mhm.
Samsung. Um, but yeah, 5 months ago, I was like, okay, I
Okay.
feel it's time,
Yeah.
you know?
So 5 months.
5 months
All
ago,
right.
yeah. So I approached my best friend, Joseph Salazar. Um, he's an incredible musician. He just scored Halo the past 3 years. We did a festival for a few years called Ditch the Fest, was great.
Hmm.
Is
Here in
kind of in
Austin?
opposition to ACL. Yeah,
Mhm.
here
Oh,
in
okay.
Austin, we did that for a few years. He was when I moved to Austin, he was in my first band too.
Okay.
But that gives you a little more insight. He's an incredible graphic designer.
Yeah.
And so I approached him and I was like, this is what I want to do. So the first ideation of Prosper was really connecting artists directly with brands and sponsorship, legal protection, and like mentorship and education.
Mhm.
And then the big piece was ownership of that data, that first party data. And there's a difference between first party and third party, by the way. But beyond the ownership, it's like they can use that data, right? To incur those sponsorship and brand
Yeah.
Mhm.
partnerships,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, why the heck not? That's what all these other platforms are doing, right? So that was the first ideation. Tech is really interesting though, because especially when you're building a technology, and this is why it's exciting because it's kind of like creative, right? You have this like first initial view of what you want to do. But as you look deeper into like, how am I actually going to do this? Like, how is this like with Sue, a lot of the conversations we were having when we met was what are brands going to need? Like, or
Right.
what do brands want? And we didn't even include fans in that first ideation. But then, through that conversation, it became clear like the fans play a big piece in this whole story, right? Um, but another piece of starting a technology, because of my experience at that first company, I knew if we're going to do this right, we've got to form a really strong team and a really strong business and legal infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, a part of the business side, like 5 months ago, also, I started forming the team. And literally, it was just thinking of people that I knew that were in the industry that I've worked with, but also had experience in the tech world and also were aligned with the same vision, right? So literally, I'm our senior full stack engineer, David. He got his master's at NYU in music business and
Mm.
licensing and
Mhm.
syncing. Um, he had a daughter right around the same time I did, and he got into tech because music was no longer sustainable.
Mhm.
He's also a producer and an engineer.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Man of
And
many trades.
huh?
Man of many trades.
Yeah, but like an example of how forming the team, it was like I'm like thinking of my friends. Oh, I'll have David come into the office.
Yeah.
Let's talk with David and tell him about Prosper. And he was like, "Oh, I've been building an app for licensing and syncing, but I've been looking for a team." And like, it was very natural. And then when you start talking about artist sustainability, and it's like everybody aligned, and every other member so far has been similar. Where it's like even Gabe was also working on a lot in terms of technology and artist empowerment.
Yeah, I
Um,
had conceptualized a mycelium-based music matching algorithm. So,
Hmm.
A what?
Yeah. I was
I'll
about to
say it
It's
since everybody
really-
looked
of,
like that.
of mice and men music bait.
no, mycelium fungi.
yeah,
No.
Well, you can tell.
mushroom based. So
Okay.
basically, it through network effects, when you collaborate with other musicians or you perform with them, it attributes energy kind of
Hmm.
to the network on your behalf. So the more that you are noticed and the more that you participate in the community, the more you're promoted.
which is huge. And
Awesome.
whoever hasn't seen Fantastic Fungi, that film,
Yep.
see that. That's a great. They show under the ground, under the soil, and they show the mycelium roots connecting
yeah.
and the trees speaking. And I mean, I loved the concept. But yeah, I think a lot of it was like meeting Terrany or Sue. It's like it was important to me when forming this team that everyone that comes into this
Mhm.
is aligned with that same vision.
Right.
Because, for example, Spotify, the reason they even went into music was they wanted to start a data
Oh.
ad agency,
Okay.
company, whatever. They wanted to
Mhm.
essentially sell data. They were going to do video, but that's way more expensive than
Yeah.
music.
Okay.
So they started to go. They decided to go with music.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's very important we're all aligned and we're doing this for a central reason. Even the lawyer, he was the second lawyer I spoke with, and he's an entertainment lawyer and a startup lawyer.
Okay.
And I met with him, told him just a bit about Prosper, and he's like, "Lauren, no joke, 2 of my clients right now are fighting for their data from Spotify." And to this day, I mean, that was only 4 months ago when Clinton, our lawyer, came on.
Mhm.
He's still working with those clients.
Wow.
So like that's an example of the alignment for the team. And then, the town hall piece I want to talk about, just because the education and listening piece was important at that time. So the week after I went to Joseph, he was like, "Oh, we should go to some networking at events at Capital Factory. Do you know Capital Factory?"
I do. Yeah. And do you mind if I go get
Oh,
Leo?
yeah.
I'm sorry. real quick.
Doggy.
That was funny.
You start a podcast at your house, you
What's up, man?
house stuff.
Yeah, that's good. It's real.
Yeah. Yeah. We keep it real around here, man.
Um,
So yes, Capital Factory.
Yeah. So Capital Factory, because it's an accelerator, a tech incubator, well, not just for technology, also for entrepreneurs. We intentionally placed ourselves there a week after inception of Prosper. And as soon as they have an open co-working day
Mhm.
on Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 4, and we just started working there. And I was like, I'm going to meet everybody who is a part of Capital Factory. And I end up meeting the incredible community director, Aaron. And I'm speaking with Aaron. He's like, "Oh, yeah, like I had a technology. I mean, it failed, but it was connecting artists, like visual artists, with investment." And
Mm.
so we like shared that vision. And his mom is a visual artist, and we were connecting. And I was telling him about these town halls, how, with what we're doing, it's so important to have events that are in person. building a technology is incredible and scalable and incredible, but the most important piece of that is the humans behind it and connecting directly and the education piece. So I told him about the town hall and he's like, well, we have this program. If you do a meetup every month, you get 2 free memberships, but you have to apply, right?
Yeah.
So that next week we applied and I did like a 2-hour interview and we got accepted.
Mm,
And so Capital Factory became our like hub,
very nice.
grew the team. And yeah, then the past 3.5 months have been us every Thursday, and every week kind of ideating and building the foundational vision of what Prosper will be. Um, and the last piece of this whole thing is, when you're building a technology, certainly something that you want to scale, um, a big piece of that is funding, right?
Yes. I mean,
And so I think the big overarching goal of all of this is to get us to a place where we can enter pre-seed funding and get a massive amount of support so we can do this right?
so you're building a technology, correct? That is
That is one of our pillars.
the
Yes, that's one of
but
the main.
and so one of the functional ways, and just so as an if you're approaching investors, what is the, I guess, what's the pitch? What's the story for them? If they're, I mean, are they music fans? Is that what you're going after, or are we going after
Oh,
um their fanship? Are we going after their supportive community? Like what is
oh,
the?
like what kind of investors are we
Hmm.
focused on?
Hmm.
Oh man. I mean, I think for me, and been thinking about that a lot this week because we're getting closer and closer to the
Hmm.
time of being ready. I mean, I think for me it is going to be important that the investors we work with are aligned with our mission and exactly why we're
Absolutely.
doing this.
Hmm.
I think that's really, really important. I don't think it's going to be limited to a certain type of person.
Okay.
I think it's going to be more about, you know, that they back the vision,
The vision. Yeah.
the vision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to speak? I mean, I don't know. Like, can you want to speak more on like investors in general, or just like how you choose them?
Well,
I
I
mean,
think I
there's also different types of
yeah. Well,
investors.
I think if you're doing like a music centric entity, I think you got to kind of speak the language of the investor, right? And tell them that these musicians are also entrepreneurs. Like
Yeah.
you're actually helping the economy by an influx of your funds into helping us create a sustainable platform for other artists to launch off and become, 'cause they might start off as artists, but then they might start record labels, distributors, other things that can go into that ecosystem of music. So it's really talking to the investor about where their funds can really be utilized the best for a sustainable career for other artists and other creatives. And you want them to be fans of music,
Yes.
right? You want them
Yeah.
to have some kind of interest in music.
Yep.
That way you can have a common ground to talk upon,
Right.
but also let them know, how authentic you are about how you feel about what you're doing with the music and how much you love the artist. And any investor, when they see your love for what you're doing and your love for the artist, they'll be more willing to listen and try to see how to help you, as far because I've dealt with investors
Oh,
before
I'm
and
sure.
got money and
Yeah, it's
how to really get them involved in your dream and your vision. They have to share the dream, right?
Yeah.
And you have to have an evangelist within your company if it's not the CEO or if it's somebody else who can go in there and say, I like this because of this. Like, well, who's your spokesperson? Who's your endorsement that the investor can relate to and also see the same vision from that person? I would think.
absolutely, yeah.
I think it's also important to point out that we do intend on becoming a public benefit corporation. So investors who want to see the world become better through technology and improve communities through technologies that can empower artists and help culture thrive are kind of the people, the investors who we're going to be looking for.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it's interesting going through this process because literally, like, I have it pulled up right now, building the investor pitch deck. I've been sending it to Sue. The final version was version 6,
Hmm.
but
Yeah.
interesting to know, like, there's pieces that are like commonly like required for pitch decks. Like, I can go through it, right? There's a title slide. I added the emotional hook piece because I think that's important with what we're
Well,
doing.
it's a personal thing.
Yeah. No, and honestly, I could tell you like this emotional hook piece is I wanted to center whoever is going to invest in this. I wanted to remind them why they love music, right?
Yeah.
And then this emotional hook, it's about asking them like about a song or something that got them through a joyful or hard time
Yeah.
in their life, and then having them imagine that artist has to give up,
Yeah.
right? And then I go right into the problem that shows statistically
Mm,
that is what's happening
I like
and that
that.
artists are
It's
burning
a
out.
great
But
approach.
what's interesting to listeners that aren't in like technology, and a lot of this was new to me too, right? It's like you have the emotional hook, then you talk about the problem, right? And then you go into the solution,
Mhm.
right? And then after the solution, you know, in our pitch, we talk more about the actual layers of our platform and what we're doing, and how we're gonna launch. But then it's like all about numbers, right? Um, the market, well, revenue streams, but hold on, what is it called? I'm sorry. The
Okay.
market opportunity. So example, I could say this. Our market opportunity, 26 billion global recorded music revenue. Artists capture only 12%. 940 billion global ad spend. Music gets a sliver, actually only 2%. $1.7 billion physical media market, fastest growth among Gen Z. And then the fan economy, billions spent on collectibles, fandoms, gaming. Prosper XO is uniquely positioned to tap digital, brand, physical, and cultural markets at once. So this is an
Mhm.
example of like a slide on the
Yeah.
pitch deck where
Yeah.
it's like, it's very much like in terms to answer your question, it's very much about what Terrany is saying. Like,
Yeah.
you know, we have to find investors that relate and can really also. We're going to be working with these people a long time.
Yeah.
It's not like they just give you $1 million and they're like, peace,
Yeah. Yeah. You got.
I know Sue knows. Yeah.
There's a relationship piece to that,
Yeah.
and so y'all
Yeah.
have a survey, which I really dig your surveys, and it's
Oh,
cool
yeah.
that you have the different surveys for the different types of person. But it was artist, it was fan, and the
Brand.
brand.
And industry, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. There was 4.
Yeah.
So I took the fan one, and it was a
Oh,
really
thank you.
yeah, but it was a really interesting. It got me thinking about why I love music and kind of like putting. You never really have to write that on paper, right? Or like think about
Mhm.
it in that way.
Mhm.
So what's the plan with those surveys?
And I'm really glad you bring that up because that is something at the same time we started the town halls that was very important. I think initially, I mean, just in general, the plan was I wanted to start hearing the voices and
Yeah.
experiences. And all of those questions were very intentional.
Yeah.
And part of
Can
the
tell.
fan survey was to start reminding people again why they love music.
Mhm.
And why they're doing it and how it impacts them.
Yeah.
I think the surveys too, like in terms of technology and business, it's all about also learning about your market and your community.
Yeah, I started analyzing those surveys
Oh yeah,
today,
today.
deep analyzing, and basically what we found so far is that we had an idea of kind of like what the community needed, but the voices coming through the surveys are confirming that we were exactly on the right track. So
Oh, that makes me tear up.
That's great.
there's a deep need for tools for artists that bridge the gap between being a small business owner and being an artist, because that really is the big struggle right now. You not only have to be an artist that is on top of your creative game, but you have to be a data analyst. You have to be um, a business strategist. You have to be all these a marketer. Like you have to do all these little jobs that really add up, and they take away time and energy from being able to create. Um, so those surveys not only confirm what we want to build, but that we're building in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, super powerful. Uh,
It,
this is
that's
the
all right.
last piece about the surveys. I the NPR thing, NPR posted, we've got you've got our attention or whatever. Then I think it was like we 200 over 200 survey, 225. I don't know how many surveys we got.
Mm.
Anyway, I spent like until almost 6 a.m. reading through every single one. And I've just now started when I can, like replying back to
Mm.
each one and thanking people for taking. You'll get one soon, promise. It's gonna
No
take me a second.
problem. Yeah.
But that's like a little bit more about the surveys too. Like for me as like CEO or whatever, um, it's important to me to really also like connect with people. I want what we build to be what people need, right? And I want it. And also like post funding, we're going to have artist cohorts, we're going to have paid industry cohorts where it's like as we're building, they're going to be testing it out and telling us what works and what doesn't,
I
right?
see. Yeah.
That's also the beauty of technology, and as you build. But yeah, those surveys were, a way to hear and uplift the voices and experiences,
Mhm.
and also a way for us to, what's the word? Not
But
basic.
it allows us to fill the needs that are
Right.
apparent
Yeah. Yeah.
in the community.
So this phase 1 tech build that have you completed that, or you're in the middle of that?
So you when doing a technology like this, they tell you to build. I say they, like the incubators and
Mhm. The
accelerators,
industry.
right? The industry, yeah, the
Yeah.
tech industry, right? Build an MVP, then go for funding. At least
Okay.
that's how it's been for a while,
Yeah.
right? For those listening, an MVP is a minimum viable product. An example of an MVP I like to give is Airbnb. Their MVP was you rent an airbed at a conference, only at a conference, on someone's floor. There was no payment system, like nothing. That was their MVP.
Mm.
DoorDash MVP, literally this guy was like in a suburbia area, the CEO of this company, and he liked this one restaurant and they didn't deliver to his neighborhood.
Mm.
So he was like, "Oh, I'll start
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll start a delivery
Delivery.
service basically through this technology, get my neighbors to order, I'll deliver it."
Yeah.
And, that was
Okay.
his basic MVP, right? I think that's a great structure to do it. Facebook also was like, Mark just basically started this networking. It was just him, right? And it
Yeah.
was
Right.
only for colleges, right?
Right.
But for me, the way I wanted to do this and the way I envisioned it was I wanted to build this with a team that was paid and supported and taken care of. And I wanted to build this with a community backing it, not even just backing it, like with the community, like I'm saying,
Mm.
So for me, the route I was thinking of taking was like, okay, we're going to build this community, activate this community, hear this community. We're going to build this team, this business infrastructure. And then we're going to prepare for funding and prepare what we want to build, but we're not going to build it until
Okay.
we get funding.
Okay.
So that's where we're at. And we're literally like 3 weeks away, I think. I feel like being really ready. Austin Tech Week is end of October, where
Okay.
me and Zelie are speaking on a panel
Oh, great.
actually on
Okay.
Austin Tech Week. And
Where
but
is?
yeah, so we haven't technically built anything except like our website and like IP like that,
Yeah.
know.
Well, what we have been building is ideations of what we
Mhm.
think was going to benefit our users the most, and we've been just kind of outlining over and over again, iterating, and the what we are what we're planning to build now is almost completely different from what we were going to build in the beginning,
Mhm.
Yep.
and that
Yep.
came from feedback from our town halls, feedback from the surveys. It came
Feedback from Sue,
from
feedback
Sue
from
and from our
Terrany.
advisors, and it really has evolved into something that is serving even more needs now than it was originally.
And so, will this have some type of user interface to it? This technology
Yeah,
that
Oh yeah.
artists. And I wasn't sure if it was like a user interface type service and technology that you were building, or if it was kind of a back behind the scenes, which it sounds like it's a little bit of both, depending on what part of it.
yeah. There's
Um,
a lot of different components, and it's basically going to be serving three markets at the same time. There's a fan component,
Yep.
and how much do you want to?
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
yeah, how much do we want to talk about? I'll say this, like I think it's exciting to talk about even the ideation pieces. Like
Mhm.
some of the things we started talking about. Actually, Zeely, we first were like talking about sonic bids and EPKs and like how do we get the artist and that profile that to a level, right, of entrepreneurial and like and then we started talking about like collectible cards and pogs and
Mm.
like oh, like, okay, cool. Collectible cards, like having a professional card, that's great. And my daughter was playing Pokemon Go. And, we were talking about fandom and like what's and that's really big. I mean, that's a big market. It has
Yeah.
been for a while.
Yes.
But that whole idea of like collecting and exclusivity and like
Signatures.
yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
like
I
that
mean,
whole market of things, fandom. Yeah.
Right.
yeah, fandom, right? And I think even deeper talking about that too, like what I was seeing as a musician and then as an event coordinator and a booker and manager was just like, so many artists were playing these shows where they're asked to do everything. T and I talked about this, where it's
Mhm.
like, you've got to promote, you got to sell the tickets, you got to do this, you got to do that, and then at the end of the night, you get like $100, $200,
Yeah.
If that.
if that,
Yeah.
and no data, right?
Yeah.
And so, another piece of like the fandom piece and that whole like thought process was like, also like, what if we create a reward system, right? Um, it's called the Prosper Point system, but also thinking about like, right now the artists are giving, 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 but what if we create a system where it's like a give back type of situation, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Can
So
I
we,
say some input from the surveys?
yeah, oh, totally, totally.
So one of the responses from the surveys that we got a lot was that artists wanted a better way to foster direct communication with their fans and to foster their own community within the community at large. So that's part of the systems that Lauren's describing right now are part of that solution that we're building.
Yeah, and it's so interesting to talk about that because I hear it and it's like, oh, that should be simple, right? But because of the algorithm, right? I mean, everybody's disconnected on so many levels, and
Yeah.
it's 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 crazy because that is the power we have. And we're not limited. Like even today, I was talking to an artist and I'm like, even before Prosper, like directly connect with your fans. Like you have the power to do that.
Yeah.
Start an email list,
Yeah.
sell your merch directly, like directly connect as much as you can. You are not limited by anything. Like you can be doing that and empowering yourself right now.
But then again, there's the hidden labor involved in that.
Well, sure. Yeah, there's a there's a lot of pieces to why it's not happening, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, a part of the ideation of that too was like, how do we not only make the communication more direct? I love fan clubs. You remember fan clubs?
Mhm.
Like I loved that time. But also it's like, how do we create a system where it's like, oh, an artist collects this card and then shares, on social media. Great. Let's reward them, right?
Yeah.
And the great piece about that is brands can be a part of that reward system. Um, but yeah, I mean, another piece of it was just I love Pokemon Go and geocaching. And I think without saying too much,
Yeah.
I think really I call it the superpower. I think it's what we're looking at now is the power of the release, right? Because to me, that's where I'm seeing it's like a friend of mine, Reen, just released this beautiful song, Shooting Star, because his cousin got shot in that church shooting.
Oh my goodness.
And he released this beautiful song. He's messaging me. He's like, what do I do? Like, and then he's just like, I'm gonna release it on Spotify. Great,
Mhm.
And I told him I was like, please at least also release it on Bandcamp right now because
Yeah.
you get. But like you're seeing artists and they're putting so much into this,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're talking about all the recording and like the labor of that, and then some of them are like paying so much for promotions and like, I
And
mean,
the
and
social media.
just
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
everything. And if we focus on the power of the release, it's like right now you're releasing and you're maybe making $4 on Spotify. Maybe
Yeah.
you're releasing on Bandcamp. you're making maybe more, but still they're going to take 15 to 20% and it's still kind of capped.
Yeah.
Then you even talk about Patreon. That's more of like you get more of a return, but it's a more churn and like it's a
Yeah.
more like consistent. You have to work more at it,
Yeah.
right?
And it's
Yeah.
hard to get people to commit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
yeah,
And to add to that, it's about getting artists to reframe their thinking, right? A lot of artists think the only way they can be successful is through a major label and through that major label system, and need to get back to thinking, how hip hop started, how punk rock started. It was all
yes,
about you finding new ways of doing things.
mhm.
Like an example could be an artist could release an album and they're into fashion, right? But they're thinking about Spotify. They're thinking about all of this instead of taking their music and putting it in stores that sell clothes. Like you can
Mm.
still use brick and mortar. There are still those type of avenues for you to reach out to where you could sell more there than on Spotify. As I did, I think I told you that what I did when I was
yeah.
young. There was a record store called Music Mania here.
Okay.
Oh, this is genius.
Yeah,
Oh my
it was at
God.
Music Mania. And
Okay.
everybody used to put their albums in this record store,
Mhm.
right? It was all alphabetized. So a T double would be way back in the T's. I was like, well, how about if I take my product and put it in convenience stores? Because
Mm.
you stop by a convenience store more in a day than you do a record store. You
Yes.
get gas, you get beer, you get a drink, you get something for Thomas, you get,
Yeah.
everything, right?
Yeah.
So I told the convenience stores, I'm selling my album for 10, you get $3. But put me right by the register so it's the last point of purchase sale. So when people would come in there to buy their lottery tickets or whatever, they would see this album, T Double or whoever, and they would buy those records.
Yes.
So I tried to buy my mom's house first at the little corner store there, and I was selling out. I would go to the corner store and put like 10 or 20 in the morning, like 8 or 9. And by noon, he would call me and say, hey, I sold out. I would like, you have any more stores? He would have 4 or 5 stores. I would fill those stores. So in the day, I would have like 20 convenience stores around Austin selling my record,
Wow.
making way more that way than people were struggling in the corner store in the record stores.
Yeah.
So it's all about thinking outside the box of how to really reach your base,
Yeah.
right? Everybody has their own base. And Spotify is built on vanity, right? Because people chose Spotify during that time for not for the revenue they can make, but for the ease of getting their music to someone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Where they were saying, we can get your music in Japan, wherever, like that.
Yeah.
And nobody thought about the money part till nobody was making money.
Yeah.
Then they started
Yeah.
thinking about it.
Yeah.
Like Spotify, I think they just put out the new one where at the end of the year, they do your Spotify end of the year look back.
Yeah.
Where they say, I have this many people in Japan playing my record. That's not money. That's not revenue. That's just to make you feel good.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
so then you forget the money.
Yeah.
So if you put Spotify and all those other things out your mind and think like, how can I reach my particular base directly? Like if I'm really into shoes, I should go to Champs, Foot Locker. Each one of those are, franchises. So they all have their own individual owner. So you can go each one of them and say, hey, I got this new song I wrote about Pumas. Can we put this in here? Now you're directly hitting your fans. You put it in the Puma section.
It's-
It's really easy. I think musicians just overthink it
Yep.
because we thought we needed a record label and we thought we needed a manager and we thought we needed all these things to be successful. When you could really do it yourself, but just take time and think about how to really reach your fans directly and let artists know that. Just like with sync, when I talk to people about sync, they're asking me about the $100,000 syncs, $1 million sync, but there's $5,000, $10,000. There's all this space in here that you could tap into to start making money from.
That's more
That's
than you're
wide
making
open.
on streams or
So
in the
there's so
record
much
store.
there's so much space. It's like if you're mixing a record, right? You have your left, your right, but you got all this space sonically
Mhm.
in the middle to do things with. That's where artists need to get back to thinking about
Yeah.
what's all in the empty space that I could be tapping into.
Mm.
Again, I love what T is saying. Like, I think Prosper is just about building a system that can support and uplift that and directly connect you with those type of resources. But what he's saying, doing that now, like getting out there, directly connecting with your community, like you can do that now, like
100%.
connecting with brands now, like all of these things are really beneficial and it's only going to help when we have Prosper built,
Mm.
right? But a lot of it too about Prosper, it's like, I mean, these like connections are just missing, right? And I think too with discoverability, like I think I've talked to a lot of fans and a lot of community, and a lot of people are like, it's also just hard to discover local music
Yeah.
and good music and connect with new music. Like there's simple pieces of Prosper that are going to be so monumental, even though when you think about it, it's like, oh, that seems really simple, but just making that connection is going to be huge. And with brands, I mean, that's such a big piece of it, right? But yeah, and I think another piece I could talk about, like not extensively, but is like the physical media aspect, right? And that's been around for so long,
Mm-hmm.
right? Cassettes and vinyl and all
hmm
of this. For me, the way I'm thinking about it with Prosper, it's like, how can we unite these worlds, the digital and the physical world, but also place that in a physical space, right?
Yeah.
And that's where the Pokemon Go came, because
Yeah.
I was like, I love that. I love geocaching. I love getting people out into culture. And that, you were talking about the Doris
Doris
Miller.
Miller. Yeah.
Like there's so many, and I've been frustrated about that over the years with Austin. It's like all of these places are closing, that should be iconic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's like if we could bring more people out to these cultural spaces, and also it'll be an activation for the artists too. Like how exciting is it to think about that union? And also bring back physical media. So a big piece of what we're doing is like uniting the digital and the physical world together.
Okay.
Um,
So
it's a
that
big
that
piece.
covers fans and artists, I think, pretty well, at least
I
as far as our
can,
plans go.
hmm
But I'm really curious how we're going to connect that to brands.
yeah. Should
So
I
Sue,
just
would you like to talk
read?
on that a little bit? Or
Well, we haven't updated you on the latest ideation, but you
I
can
don't
talk.
think so.
Well, you could talk more about brands too, and what we were talking about, like the value, like,
Yeah.
or yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think my experience, in how I met Lauren too, is very specific, but also just some other surrounding experience there and seeing what other similar companies are doing. I think what Prosper also seeks to achieve for the artist is that relationship, right? And a lot of times, what I see with the brand relationships, and this is probably not the case for the bigger brands where they have maybe a long-standing relationship with a celebrity, whether it's a NBA player or a
mm-hmm.
musician. But at the smaller level, especially in Austin, when there's so many special Austin brands partnering, a lot of times it's very transactional. An artist is doing an event, they want liquor for free,
Yeah.
and a brand is like, cool, let me get in all the content, the social media content, and
Yeah.
on some lips and try and make more transactions. So from both sides, one's trying to save money and serve something, and the other is just trying to get content and
Yeah.
tastes.
Exposure.
Yeah. And I think there's so much more that can be done with that. If there's more of a sustainable relationship, if there's a longer term goal. And I think that's something that Prosper in the relationships and the direct access between brands, fans, and artists, that they can build that more, because it's going to benefit each more. I mean, if you think about the example of a Kardashian tweet or something,
hmm
one time everything spikes up, great, dies down, no
Yeah.
one hears about it
But that's
again.
the reality of our world.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
That
the same
is.
thing's going to happen. Like, great. An artist got a bunch of tequila or a bunch of vodka for
Yeah.
a night and people had fun and they got free advertising. And then what?
Yeah.
Right. So how do you build that and sustain that
Yeah.
further? And I think a big part of that too is what is the mindset of the brand that you're partnering with.
Yeah.
In our scenario, the founders were both musicians themselves, and that's why there was a lot of support in that particular community. And those things I think are important to find. Is there a relationship? Is there a passion behind the company itself? Is there a mission behind the company
Yeah.
itself that's going to lend itself to take that relationship further? And that's where it's going to help the artist better, and giving the artist the mindset of looking at it from that perspective. Look at it as a partnership and a relationship, not just I'm doing this event and I don't want to buy booze, help me out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
whether that's alcohol, food, gear,
hmm
whatever that might look
Yeah.
like, how do you
What
make that relationship longer and benefit both parties more out of it?
when
It's
I
advertising.
Yep.
Yeah.
when I think of brands, I mean, I'm a guitarist, but when I think of Roland, I think of Z.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that is it. That is what that is to me, like Fender and Stevie Ray. Like
Mhm.
when I think of Z, I'm thinking of him and his representation of that brand.
Right.
And I think if more artists had that, I mean, I can't imagine what that has done for him, not only personally, but in his career. And
A
I'm
lot.
sure it's done a lot for Roland. I don't know
Mm,
exactly,
mm,
um, but it makes sense. And so, and having that relationship too, and having that coexisting and thinking, um, it's funny you talked about the Kardashian tweet because, I mean, but that's literally the way the world works
yeah.
right now, and I don't, I don't see how an artist could not want to be striving for that just as much as they would want to be striving for any other musical I'm struggling to find the word, but checking the box. Like
Right.
I
Yeah.
must find a brand partnership that is like
Yeah.
100% a
Yeah.
necessity.
Yeah.
Well, Gabe kind of talked a bit about in the surveys, and I love what Sue is mentioning because it brings up. So in the surveys, I mean, and just from talking with artists, I think why one of the reasons from the artist perspective why it isn't happening, is because I think a lot of artists. And we see this in the surveys, like they view a brand partnership as like maybe supporting something corporate or
Mm,
something
yeah,
that they don't feel authentic
authentic. Yep.
about. And so
Yeah.
when Sue is you're talking about like it making it more than transactional, that is a huge piece of the beginnings of Prosper, like the beginning experience of onboarding a brand and onboarding an artist. We want to know their authenticity, right? We
Mhm.
want to know if you're an artist and you want to work with LGBTQ brands and wellness brands, or you have a story around an experience on the east side, or like
Mm,
honestly just looking at the whole person. And I
Yeah.
feel that way about the brands too, even in the brands profiles. Like we are interested in what they care about and what
right.
they're looking for, and who and technologically, technology is so exciting because you can build a system, a recommendation system. I mean, we see it with Bumble, with these systems where you're literally getting recommended people based on you
Yeah.
and what you want.
Yeah.
So I think looking at that system in the perspective of like, let's make these relationships based on authenticity and actual value.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the whole brand thing where we're coming from with the brands too, it's like you are on social media now getting shoved ads, right? You are like honestly sometimes just down your throat, like
Oh
just,
yeah.
and no choice, no, frankly, no incentive, no, like, it's just like this. And so the idea with Prosper, it's like, let's create a system, an ecosystem where all the brands introduced are through the artist
Yeah.
and
I
supported
love
by the
that.
fan, right? So it's like you're creating this whole, and by the way, there's not really an algorithm per se, right? So it's this whole ecosystem where brands are brought in based on authenticity and
Well, there
the
is a
other
little bit
piece
of a
too, well, there's more than that. It's not just authenticity, but
there is a little bit of an algorithm in that we our matching is going to come from a place of alignment. So when you are a brand that is eco conscious and you need to have an eco conscious artist play at your event, we'll provide tools that can match you up with those
Mm,
kinds of
yeah,
yeah.
that's a great case study. Yeah,
Yeah.
basically aligning with what's needed
It's an extremely
for the
functional way.
brand. Yeah, and then the other like little piece about the brand thing, and something we talked a lot about was like engagement rate or fan heat maps, right? I think the engagement rate is a big thing for me because I was literally told by a label, you don't have over 100,000 TikTok followers. Like we're not going to assign you. Like you're really talented, you're really great,
Yeah.
but
You're really
come back
this, you're
to
really
us.
that,
Yeah.
you're the best of the best, but
Yeah.
your numbers are low.
That's a story we hear over
God.
and over, by the way. And what I'm going to say is that metric and metrics in general right now, they're called vanity metrics, right?
Mhm.
They really don't mean that much because really the value is in the engagement, right? So you could have 10,000 followers, 100,000 followers, but 10,000 of those 10,000 followers are liking, sharing,
Mhm.
activating,
Mhm.
buying, purchasing.
Pushing.
Yeah. And
Pushing.
then you have 100,000 followers, but only 10,000 are engaged. Maybe some of those are bots. Maybe like if we build a system that can look at these numbers that matter and communicate it to the brand, right? Then it becomes a system of like, look at my value.
Mhm.
I do have value as an artist, and that ultimately is the most valuable piece. But also, look what else I bring to the table.
Yeah.
And then look at this heat map that shows you all of my fans that are all over the world. So when you work with me, your brand is not only connecting with 500 fans here, they're connecting with 200 fans in California, 500 fans in Boston, 10,000 fans in New York. Like
Yeah.
it's so I think too, it's also about just breaking down these systems. I think because of the press that came out, like people are like, "Oh, you're building an alternative to Spotify," and how I like to think of it, and I don't think, and we haven't talked about this clearly, but I don't see us being like an alternative. I see us creating a whole new creative economy operating system,
It's
right?
something different.
Something
It's not direct competition. It
it's
is
not
Okay.
competition, meaning you don't have to get off of all these things to get on Prosper, right?
Okay.
So
Makes sense. Yeah.
but back to the release, the superpower of the release, I think ultimately, maybe I'll just read our little mission.
I don't really think that there's anything else like what we're trying to build right now.
Yeah.
So it's
There
very hard
isn't.
to
Doesn't seem.
equate
Yeah.
what we're trying to do with real world examples, because it is it really is, like she said, an operating system for a new kind of culture.
Yeah. I mean, so getting into a little bit of, I mean, you're based out of Austin, Texas.
Yes.
So how do you plan to integrate Austin into your platform, and how do you currently integrate Austin, the city, and the music community around Austin into the platform?
Yeah, I think again that all of that we've been doing the past 5 months, and really, activating at the town halls and
Hmm.
starting the podcast and all of this and the surveys and hearing the voices. Um, Ultimately, what that's leading up to is when we start building, the first people that are going to be on Prosper are local Austin bands and local Austin business. And I don't see this working anywhere else. I think this is the exact place that this needs to
Hmm.
happen and start. Um,
I mean,
so
you talk to any musician, and I mean, even the ones that I've had on the show, and I ask the same question to everybody. I say, what do you think about the term live music capital of the world? Ask that to everybody, right? And I know it was a marketing slogan created in the 80s and all that stuff,
Mhm.
but for me, and then the small 9 months that I've been doing the show, or 9, 10 months or so, it's the community aspect of the Austin music community. That was a weird way to say that, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like there's a tighter knit community, and I've talked to musicians that have been in this room talking about Nashville and LA, and even other big music cities like Chicago, where you have a guy like Muddy Waters, and you have a whole genre called Chicago blues, but they don't have the community like we do here. And I think you're just kind of going off your point about this is the city where it needs to start, because I mean, the city deserves it.
Yeah, that's actually reflected in our surveys. The artist survey really talks about, even though the artists here struggle to pay bills and make rent, and only a small percentage of them make a living doing
very
music.
small, 0 to 10%.
Yeah, very small.
That is
And I
unbelievable.
think 80% of the artists that took the surveys, um, less than 40% of their income comes from music. And these are, musicians. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is that even though that they're struggling, they rated the satisfaction with the music scene here in Austin higher than anywhere else,
Yeah.
than the rest of our results.
Yeah, and T speaks on it. I think we've all experienced it.
Yeah.
I want to say like Austin like is incredible. The resources here are also, and the community here is also why I've never left.
Mhm.
And I've worked in LA and New York and all of these cities, and certainly I think just a shout out Ham and
Mm,
Sims Foundation, like they are completely unique.
s-
Um
exactly my
and
point. Yep.
I think community is so important in all of this.
Yeah.
And so,
Um,
how can the average fan get involved and become a part of Prosper, or not so much a part of it, but how can they support Prosper?
yeah, we actually just put up we have a newsletter up, but we just put our get involved page up where we added. So there's a space where you can actually sign up right now for the wait list for the artist and industry cohorts and like the beta build wait list.
Okay.
So if you're interested in the technology, also just like the newsletter, we put out that newsletter with resources and stuff that are happening with Prosper. We're about to release Terrany's interview and a bunch of we did it. We're starting an unfiltered series because we
Yep.
also want to bring back MTV and all
Oh
of
yeah,
that greatness.
absolutely.
And T was our first one. Wait till you see his studio. It's amazing.
Yes,
Um,
Teatopia.
Teatopia. But yeah, the newsletter sign up. The town halls are also great too. They're happening the second Wednesday of every month
Okay.
at Capitol Factory. Every month we have 2 guest speakers. This upcoming one is it's cybersecurity awareness month in October.
Mhm.
And so one of the speakers we're having, Yasmin Abdi, she sold a company at 17 for like 26 billion. She now has a company called No Hack. She moved here from
Mhm.
Washington, D.C. a few months ago, came to our town hall, came up to me and was like, I'm here because I want to start building systems to protect creatives.
Wow.
Like, and you look into her company, No Hack. I mean, and I had lunch with her the other day, like, just incredible. And also she's about supporting youth and all of this stuff.
Yep.
But, Terrany spoke at one of the town halls. I think that's a really great place if you're in Austin to connect with us because eventually when we start building, it's also going to be a space for us to start talking about what we're building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you
And
want to
utilizing.
have influence on what we build, then that's a really good place to do it.
And so
Yeah.
do y'all plan to expand? And I know I'm kind of thinking but back to the 5 to 10 year conversation we were having earlier. Do you plan to expand the outreach not to just musicians, but other creative outlets, other creatives?
I think if we can execute this the right way, then it will easily, certainly, be useful
Yeah.
for filmmakers, be useful for other types of artists for sure.
Mhm.
I actually randomly I went to this film screening for this film called Resonator. But by the way, if you like synthesizers, anybody out there, this film was incredible. This and sorry for this longer story again,
No,
but
forget.
this group, the Good for Nothing Club, after the NPR article came out, they reached out and they have an artist collective on the north side. It's musicians and technologists and artists. It's a house and they have a recording studio.
Hmm.
Really great. They reached out to this director. The director is the daughter of, his name's Don Tervel. He was one of the first people to invent the synthesizer.
Whoa. That's cool.
Really beautiful story, right? And he,
met her.
huh?
I met
Allison, she premiered at South by. Yeah. And so this film is her she was born and at 10 weeks old, her father who invented the synthesizer, the resonator, got in a car accident and died. And so basically all of his work and the synthesizer and everything got put into the basement. And so as she was growing up, she heard about her father, right? And she heard that he was like working with Stevie Wonder and Peter Gabriel and all of this. So as she got older, she worked in music and then got into film and basically was like, I'm going to make a documentary about this story. It is so beautiful because it's less about the synthesizer and it's more about her learning about her dad through the synthesizer. So it's breathtaking, cried, so beautiful. And then at the end of it, because she came, she came and spoke.
Yep.
And she's like, she talks about how they're working on getting Grammy nominations and all of this big stuff. Mind you, the film, she meets with Peter Gabriel. She meets with Mark Ronson. She meets with Fred, what's his last name? From SNL. All of these huge Armisen. Huge people. Because in the film, they're like playing the resonator, they're reviving it and playing it. At the end of this, she's basically like, oh, well, you can see it on like these free streaming channels. And I put my life's savings into this.
Oh my goodness.
And it got on Criterion Channel. So please pay a subscription fee. And it gutted me. I raised my hand and I was like, how else can we support you? Like, let us know. And obviously I gave her the Prosper stuff and like let her know, about what we're thinking of building. But that was like, I was like, oh my God, like not only do musicians need this, But every artist that is locked into the streaming
Mhm.
industry
Yeah.
is suffering.
Yeah.
And film is one of those pieces. So to answer your long-winded
No, it makes, I mean,
story, but you know what I'm
needed the
saying?
story for the impact, because that's, I mean, my buddy Reed, he hosts Local Sets ATX. I don't know if y'all are familiar
Yeah,
with Local
yeah, I've seen
Sets.
that, yeah.
You know, and he had a similar experience. He was in the film industry, and he feels. In fact, I really want to connect him with you. You, wow,
I know, I'm
can't
doing that
talk.
too. I know.
Yeah, I really want to connect y'all because he feels very passionately about artists and how artists are treated the same way that you guys do, and really his whole thing with Local Sets is giving artists a free, basically free platform. You know, to come out and they get professionally produced content, and you know that's part of the machine, and that's his way of supporting artistry. And so, anyways, I'd really like to connect you guys, but yeah, the
And that's
film industry.
amazing, right? And just like to me, I think of that and I'm like, oh, well, imagine if they had brand connection, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
there are so many people in our community like that too, that are just they're supporting artists without anything getting
yep.
anything back. And again, that is beautiful, but let's support that, right?
Yeah.
Like let's support that type of energy and those type of people. Um
I do
ATX.
hope in the future we can have some sort of like marketplace where we can have someone who can provide these kinds of services make a posting and that be matched up to people in need.
Yeah. There's so much
Mm.
we can do. I think what I like about the MVP and technology, it's like it forces you to like go bare bones and be like,
Mhm.
what do we have to build first?
Yeah,
Where do we have to start?
yeah.
But it is exciting just thinking about all these other avenues that if we execute this right, like where else can we take this?
Right.
So help us
Yeah.
be successful.
Yeah, anybody listening. I did write the vision statement. I don't know if you have more questions, but
No, I
that
don't. I'm good.
do you mind if I read it?
No,
Because
please do.
I
Please
was like,
do.
this might help kind of give like a fuller
I'm gonna
picture.
mute everybody.
So Steven sent it's Steven, not Stefan, right? Steven. Okay, okay. Steven sent a question about where I see the vision of Prosper in 5 to 10 years. And so I wrote a little something. So I said, when I think about where Prosper XO will be in 5 to 10 years, I don't just see an app or a company. I see a new way society values creativity. I see a world where music and art are finally recognized as essential infrastructure, not just entertainment. Right now, the music industry is built on a broken foundation. Artists carry culture, but they don't carry the paycheck. Yet, it's music and art that carry us through heartbreak, joy, grief, and celebration. They shape our identities, our memories, our movements. They generate jobs, drive economies, and infuse life into our communities. And still, artists are told to be grateful for exposure, while corporations capture the data, the power, and the money. But I believe we're on the verge of rewriting that story, and Prosper XO is the tool, the movement, and the community to make that real change. Prosper XO ensures that artists are seen not as starving dreamers, but as workers, innovators, and cultural bearers who deserve equity, security, and respect. In 10 years, I see Prosper XO as the creative economy operating system. Artists will have Prosper IDs, living, breathing profiles that aren't just EPKs, but revenue engines activating directly into culture and the physical world. Fans will no longer be passive consumers. They'll be active participants with their own dashboards, collecting Prosper points, stories, and memories that truly matter every time they support an artist. And brands will finally have transparent, ethical ways to support culture that aren't extractive but regenerative. Every release, every song, drop, and show becomes a mission, not just a passive stream, but a chance to activate data and joy for artists and community. Imagine walking through Austin or Berlin, tapping a poster, and instantly being drawn into an artist's world, supporting them, tipping them, unlocking songs, earning rewards, giving and receiving. The prosperous loop. That's where Prosper is headed. But ProsperXO is not just tech. Policy is a part of this too. In 10 years, I see us helping pass an Artist Bill of Rights, embedding equity into law. Cities like Austin, the live music capital of the world, will finally live up to that name. Not just because we have stages, but because we have systems that allow artists to live, work, and prosper here. ProsperXO becomes both infrastructure and advocacy, the bridge between culture and society that says we will no longer leave artists behind. We will also run grant programs and cultural reinvestment funds that put money back into communities. ProsperXO profits will cycle into artist residencies, public art, mental health support, and youth programs. Because if culture is going to thrive, we have to seed it at every level. ProsperXO won't just be a business model, it will be a cultural trust, giving back to the very ecosystem it grows from. The legacy I want is simple, that when people say live music capital of the world, it doesn't just mean we have stages. It means we have systems that let artists actually live here. That kids growing up today see music, poetry, film, and art not just as side hustles, but as sustainable, joyful careers. So the vision is bold. In 10 years, ProsperXO will be proof that when artists prosper, culture thrives. That when we design systems rooted in fairness and creativity, everybody, not just artists, get to live in a more vibrant, connected, human world. And when we give back, when we invest in art as infrastructure, when we align technology with humanity, we create a brighter, more hopeful world for all of us. And that's why we're building ProsperXO together.
Man, y'all are very lucky to have an individual such as Lauren leading this. You could feel the
Absolutely.
passion in that. You
Aw.
could feel the passion, you could feel the realness, and
100%.
I really appreciate y'all coming by and giving me the rundown on Prosper Expo. It's really nice to meet y'all.
Thank
You
you for
know,
having us.
Thank
of
you
course,
so
of
much
course,
for
of
in
course.
talking with us so long.
Yeah, no, this is but see, this is I think I have the condition. What's the condition where you get goosebumps whenever you hear music and
Frisson?
you feel
Mhm.
Frisson.
yeah. Some side effects during some of our conversations today because it hits home for me and this isn't even something I do for a living.
Yeah.
Right? This is my passion and I thank you guys because you individuals like yourself are going to be the ones that really just continue to carry the torch for a lot of folks. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
All
of
right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
course. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Know someone we should talk to? Give us a shout on Instagram at Austin Music People. Tell your friends, tell your family, and get out there and support Austin music.